What's up guys, my name is Marc Steiner, and today we are going to be reviewing the Sony 35mm f1.4 G Master. Let's get right into it. Let's start with the physical traits of this lens. It features the usual things we'd expect from a GM lens: custom function button, an AF/MF switch, and a declickable aperture ring. It is fully weather sealed with a rubber gasket on the back. The focus ring is also really nice to handle with. It has a 67mm filter thread, which in my opinion has cemented itself as the best filter size for high quality but smaller mirrorless lenses. Overall, this lens has an incredible build quality while not being too bulky, only weighing in at 524 grams. This lens also features the new linear AF motor, which means it's going to have smooth and ultra quick focusing. It also means that it's much easier and more reliable to manually pull focus. With a minimum focusing distance of 25 centimeters, you can get pretty close to your subject with this lens, which I love for product photography. Now onto the IAF test. The IAF on this lens is what you'd expect from Sony's flagship 35mm GM. Ultra fast, silent, reliable, and sticky. When paired with higher FPS bodies like the A9 and A1, you will be getting the most out of your camera's high frame rate shooting. Now onto the video AF test in glorious 120 FPS. As I backpedal, this lens does a perfect job of keeping me in focus the entire time. When I start running towards the camera, it doesn't catch my face at first, but after I pass the red circle, it tracks me very well the entire way. As I duck down, you can see a bit more of that focus breathing, but the transition is pretty fast. Coming back up, that focus snaps to my face instantly. As I step aside, the transition to the background is once again smooth and fast. When I come back into frame, it takes a short second to lock onto my face, but again, a fast and smooth focus rack. As I step out of frame once again, the focus rack onto the background is smooth and fast. As I pop my head back up, it focuses flawlessly. I had a lot more examples as part of this test, but every single shot had the same result. Fast, accurate, smooth focusing with good rack transitions. I don't want to bore you beyond compare. Also, keep in mind that these are shot at 120 frames per second, and if something seems slow in real time, it's blazing fast. This last shot of me running towards the camera is the only shot I experienced that took more than an instant to recognize and focus on my face, but once my face was big enough in the frame, it catches and locks on. Let's talk about focus breathing, because this is the biggest issue with the Sony 35mm. I've never been one to get annoyed with focus breathing, as all my lenses breathe, and it's never really bothered me, but the focus breathing is actually noticeable on this lens. As you can see here, it literally looks like I'm zooming in and out when I'm simply focusing the lens. That can definitely be cool as it adds a unique effect, but I don't want that effect on every single shot. And when I was using this lens out in the field shooting video, I noticed because of that focus breathing, when it was focusing on a subject, the framing would kind of punch in and it would look a little jarring even though the focus was fine. On this talking headshot, you can see that even though I'm barely moving, the frame keeps zooming in and out because of the focus breathing. Now onto some photos. As you can see, this photo right here was taken with a 35mm GM, and it looks absolutely stunning. We have so much detail in the skin tone here, even wide open at f1.4. This is so sharp, it looks so good. We have beautiful detail in the skin tone. What I'm noticing here is that we have a little bit of chromatic aberration with the magenta on her shirt, which is very surprising to me, but we can easily take that out with lens corrections. And speaking of lens corrections, let's turn those on. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of vignetting with this lens, but I personally really like it. So I usually leave my vignetting at 0 because I really appreciate that. And as you can see here, we've kind of gotten rid of some of that chromatic aberration, but if we go in here, we can just defringe that a little bit more and it's completely gone. So nothing really to worry about. Edge sharpness is also really good, and we have some really nice bokeh in the background here. Everything is blurred nicely. Very circular bokeh balls, which I really appreciate. They just really melt into the background, and I really like that. Speaking of bokeh balls, this image is the perfect opportunity to look at bokeh, and look at this. We have a little bit of that swirl going on here. We have some oval bokeh near the edges, and then more circular bokeh as we get to the center of the frame, which is very common with Sony lenses that I've noticed, but the quality of this bokeh is just so good, and it's so clean and so consistent. I just love the way this looks out of this lens. And once again, we are so sharp, even wide open at f1.4, just look at this detail. This is at ISO 2000, so it's a little bit noisy, but man, like, look at the individual hairs, look at her eyes, look at the eyebrows, look at the skin detail. There's just so much sharpness in this lens at f1.4, which is absolutely insane. If we look at the texture on her jacket, like, look how much detail is in her jacket. It's absolutely insane that you can see the actual fabric with so much sharpness and detail, and that's this beautiful thing that you're getting out of this lens. You're getting super sharp, amazing performance with beautiful bokeh, and it looks so good. As a photography lens, this lens is absolutely exquisite. This by far is the best 35mm on the market for the Sony ecosystem. Colors are rich and rendered so beautifully, skin tones come out so naturally, and the photos are absolutely sharp, even wide open at f1.4, something that no other lens I've tested compares with. The bokeh out of this lens is so beautiful in my eyes. I'm always amazed at how good the colors and sharpness are with this lens. When I was editing the images you're currently seeing on screen, I was shocked at how much detail there was in these images, especially in the skin tones, because it's something I haven't really experienced with other lenses, and it made editing such a joy. Another thing I really appreciated with this lens is how it handles backlighting and flaring extremely well, and it honestly felt like I was getting more dynamic range out of my shots because my shadows weren't muddy from flaring, which is super helpful, both for photo and video. So what are my overall thoughts on this lens? For photography, I think this is the perfect lens. Small, lightweight, built very well, completely weather sealed, amazing performance, and beautiful images. For videography, however, that's a different story. Yes, you're getting all those same amazing perks on the photo side for video, but you have to take into account that focus breathing. And honestly, I was a little bit disappointed by that because the fact that I couldn't even use it for a talking headshot without it being very obvious kind of irks me. This is a very expensive lens, and it is the only G Master I own, and one of the main reasons why I bought this lens was for video, for better autofocus performance compared to my Sigma. And yes, this performs better, but is it worth double the price? And I start to wonder with that focus breathing if I'm going to be using it in more video situations. And I really do want to rely on this lens, but I think if you're a main video shooter and you want this to be your go-to lens, it's something you have to consider when purchasing this. So I think if you're only using this lens for photography, get it. It's amazing, it's well worth the price, oh my god. If you're getting it for video, you have to be cognizant of that focus breathing, and I think you need to see whether or not you can live with that and if that's a deal breaker for you or not. I have never more wanted a cinema version of this lens with zero focus breathing. That would be the perfect lens. This lens is literally perfect in every other aspect. I would love to see a cinema version of this lens in the future. Sony, get on that. But I genuinely want to know your thoughts on the focus breathing issue. Can you tell what I'm talking about, or do I just sound like a crazy nitpicky person? Let me know in the comment section down below. My name has been Marc Steiner, and I'll see you next time.